spiel, reminding what needs to be looked at and seen. We call it non-duality, based on the Advaita teachings of Hinduism. And they try to describe non-duality by saying it's one without a second, not two. Meaning it's only the one essence that's vibrating, patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing, expressing as everything. And they also say, you are that. That's the great mantra, I am that. And that's what we keep pointing to, and I can't teach you anything, can't tell you anything. All I can do is point toward and ask you to look to where I'm pointing to see for yourself. But that's what all can happen. There's nobody can teach you or tell you anything, because you are all the same when you look into it and see there's all the same vibrating patterns of energy. And there's no separation. In non-duality there is nothing separate, and it's non-separable and indivisible. You can't divide it. Yet we divide everything and separate everything. That's where we get this idea that we take on this idea we're separate entities, we're individuals, we're these persons, and that is the cause of all our problems. The idea of me, a separate entity. When that sense of separation is there's a sense comes with it of insecurity and vulnerability. And so we learn words and keep putting these words out, labels on it, and instead of discarding it all and bringing it back to the one, the pure essence, we keep using the words and the terms, and that puts us further away, further apart. Hey, Judge. How you doing?
This is Ben.
Who?
Bill.
Bill. Hi, Bill.
Ben. Nice to meet you.
Ben. Okay.
So that's what we look into and investigate, because they say the false cannot stand up to investigation. And that's true. But when you investigating, go right into it and look at something, if it's false, it'll fall apart under the investigation. If it's the truth, well, you'll know the truth, and this is the whole saying, know the truth will set you free. What are you free from? You're free from these beliefs, these conceptual images we've got, where we take ourselves to be these human beings. Being human. In Satchitananda Nama Rupa, that's the 5 factors of Hinduism. And when you look into that, existence, consciousness, bliss, Nama Rupa, that's the way it's translated. Anyone who's not existing right now. And you'll say, yes, I'm existing. I'm not existing, I'm existing. Anyone who's not conscious or unaware. Well, you're not unaware and you're not unconscious. Anyone who's not happy to be. Well, you'd rather be than not be, wouldn't you? So that's what it is, and that's all there is. Well, that's what you are. You're not the individual. You're not the separate entity. You're not the person. How did this all come about? Well, it came about when we picked up words. And you were not born with any words. And we've got all these words or concepts about ourselves. And the word's not the thing. Have a look at that and see that the word is not the thing. Take the word water. Can you drink the word? Can you swim in it? Will you drown in it? No. It's just a pointer to what it appears. Can you word fire burn your mouth? Can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself with it? You can't. So what's this word I or me that we put on ourselves? And believe ourselves to be this separate entity, this individual, this person. That's where it comes from. Where does the word person come from? It comes from the ancient Latin language persona, the mask. Pointing out we've got this conceptual image of what we believe ourselves to be. And so we're going about it in the wrong direction. You'll say, I was born. But can any one of you actually remember your birth? You can't. Why can't you remember your birth? Because you had no words. And you didn't pick up or learn any words till you were about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning developed in you. And you learnt words. So every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learnt, been picked up along the way. And the word's not the thing. As I say, the word fire is not the fire, the word water is not the water. The word you or I are not what we appear to be. It's all seemingly so. And they call it that in Buddhism. They tell you it's a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomenal is that which appears to be. So it's all appearances, seemingly real, all vibrating patterns of intelligence energy appearing as the one essence. And you are that already. And that's the great mantra, I am that. And you know that also. And you're going to look at it. And everything is that. That is all there is. And you realise that's the chair you're sitting in. That's the room the chair's in. That's the space in the room. That's the tree. That's the flower. That's the mountains. That's the hills. Everything is that. Already that and only that which we discriminate with the word. We put more words on it. So when you call it a chair, instead of seeing it as that is the absolute. What can you add to the absolute? Well, you can't add anything. If you could add anything to it, it wouldn't be absolute, would it? And what can you take away from it? Same thing. If you take anything away from the absolute, it wouldn't be absolute. They call it the great perfection. What can you add to the perfect? Nothing. What can you take away from the perfect? And I give it to you in one sentence. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. None of you are unaware that awareness is with you, but we've got all these concepts on that awareness. And that's the cause of all our problems. They call it ignorance in the scriptures. When we hear that term, we think, oh, we're dull, we're stupid, we don't know anything. But they don't mean that at all. What they mean is we are ignoring ignorance. We are ignoring our true nature, what we really are. We've taken on this belief we are this person from our parents, been reinforced by our schools, society and everybody around, and we start reinforcing it ourselves after a while. As I am Bob, I'm the Australian, I'm good fella, I'm this, I'm that. If anybody asks you, well, who are you? You'll say, I am so-and-so. So you put the belief in this persona, this mask concept, is reinforced all the time, and it's the belief we've taken on. That word belief, look into that. The dictionary definition of belief is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. So when it's been alleged that you are this person, this separate entity, this individual, and we haven't investigated, and we believe it. And that's the cause of all our psychological suffering, our fears, depressions and everything. Me is the cause. Well, investigating it, how did you begin? You'll say, I began at birth, but you can't remember your birth. But we'll look into it and investigate. We'll go back as far as your father and your mother. You can go back as far as you like if you really look into it properly. And realise that animating life essence, that pattern that you call your father, enabled in that pattern, shape and form, through the food he's eating, the prana, the air he's breathing, and all the functioning that's going on in that pattern, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye, but that sperm was suffused with intelligence energy. It knew what to do. And the same with your mother. That same life essence in your mother enabled in that pattern another microscopic particle called an ovum or an egg to form. And that ovum was suffused with intelligence energy too. It knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm swam to the ovum, showing it was suffused with intelligence energy, knowing what. So it's not just a dead blob of goo. It's suffused with that life. And that life which you are today. When those two came together and it doubled, and through the essence of the food eaten by your mother and the prana and the genes and everything that's going on in that body, formed the little embryo, the little fetus. And it's what you are today. What were you doing about it then if you think you're running the show now? You realise you weren't doing anything and you didn't know anything because you had no words when you were born. That's why you can't remember your birth. And you didn't pick up words till you were about 2.5, or somewhere around that area. Might have been sooner for some of you, later for others. But the words were picked up by your parents fussing around you. Your little Johnny or your little Billy, your good little boy, you're this, that and the other. And then they learn a few other words and say, I am little Johnny. So we've taken on that belief from then on and reinforced it. And continue to pick up words. So every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learnt or picked up. Now the word is, we picked up all these words and taken the belief in them, and so we've taken on this idea that we are this person, this separate entity. But realise, as I say, you are prior to the word. You're not the word, you're not the person, the conceptual image, because for the first couple of years of your life you didn't know any words, but you were living without the word. Your parents were looking after you, certainly, because you didn't, as a little baby, you didn't do much, but the life was in that pattern, shape and form, and it couldn't say I am. It didn't know anything about being or knowing or loving, but the pure intelligence energy was functioning through it and living it. But then as we learn words and take on words and we put the label on ourselves, I am Bob, the Australian, a good fella or not so good, I'm happy or I'm unhappy, I'm pleasant or I'm painful, I'm good, I'm bad. All these concepts come about which are added on to the word to give it some seeming solidity, some seeming substance. And so we've got this conceptual image of what we believe ourselves to be, all based on words. So see how that functions. Something comes up in your life and you like it. Why? You've had it before, you've expressed it before, and you know, learned a bit about it in life. So you like this word. Or it might be about your parents or your friends or whatever, or some good activity in your life. I like it. And the things you like, you don't want to lose. You want to keep them there. Not realising that everything in this manifestation is transient. It's constantly changing. That body that's sitting in this room now is changing. There's not one cell changing, but there are thousands of them. And they're being replaced. And being replaced like a liver cell will not replace a skin cell. It'll be a liver cell. It's fused with that intelligence. Each cell knows what to do. Each cell has got that livingness in it, that life essence. And so it's constantly changing this pattern to call you the body-mind. At 2.5, the capacity of reasoning comes about when you learn these words. And you learn these words, and that brings about, you learn words like I and me, and then you look out there, the little child looks out there and he says, that doesn't fit me, that's not I. So he feels insecure and vulnerable. And that's when all our problems start, from that insecurity and vulnerability. Not realising the word's changing, he tries to cling on it and fix on it. And so he resists it, trying to keep it there, he resists it. And any resistance you are in, you're in conflict. Resistance is conflict. You're at war with it, you're fighting with it. And conflict makes you uneasy, fearful, anxious, depressed. All your psychological problems come out because of that conflict that's going on. And that's uneasiness. Another word for uneasiness is dis-ease. So there's resistance, conflict and dis-ease going on you. Dis-ease, you're not at ease anymore. You're fearful, you're anxious. Something comes up and you don't like. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking that, that's a bad thought. I shouldn't think that, I don't want to get that one in, I don't like this. So what do? We don't want the bad thoughts. We try to get rid of them, so we resist them. Again, conflict and disease, which brings about your fear, your anxiety, your stress, your guilt, your shame, remorse, your jealousy, your envy. All these concepts is what your psychological suffering is. So you see that me, this believed in I or me, the separate entity, is the cause of all your psychological suffering. And me is the cause, and the anger, the fear and all the rest of it are the effects of that cause, relating to that cause. Now what's cause and effect? Isn't so cause and effect so-called karma? And you believe you've got all this karma and all the rest of it. But what happens if you ask the simple question, can there be effect and effect if I'm not relating to a cause? Well, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work that out. If you're not relating to a cause, where can the effect lodge, or who or what can have the effect if you're not relating to it? So you see, that's why they say in the scriptures that relativity or relationship is dualism. And it's the relationship or the dualistic things we take on that causes all this thoughts and fears and imagination to come up. And Shakespeare told you that 300 or 400 years ago. He says there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And we think. Nisargadatta tells you a similar thing. He says nothing can trouble you except in your own imagination. Break that word imagination down to imagine, image. And break the image down to imagine. So we're creating, you see what's happening, we're creating all these mental images, and that's all they are, conceptual images. Oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm fearful. And believe the image to be real. But have a look at that. Investigate that. You see an image, or what's images? They're just reflections. You see an image or a reflection in the mirror. Now go up to that mirror and see if you can grab the image out of the mirror. You can't. There's your face in the mirror, but you can't grab it. So you can't say it's not there because it's appearing in the mirror. But you can't say it is there because you know it's not so. It's just a reflection or an image. So that's the same with all this manifestation. It's all. You can't say it is. You can't say it isn't. It all appears to be. It's all seemingly so. Are you the body? Are you the mind? You believe you're this body-mind? Well, are you? Investigate. Don't you say my body, my mind? Don't you say my house, my car, my shirt, my coat? You know you're not the shirt, the coat, the car or the house. By the same token, maybe you're not the body either. So investigate and have a look at it. What's this body made up of? When you investigate, you'll see it's made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space, just like the elements around you. Try and separate yourself from those elements. Take the air out of your body. How long would you last without the air? You wouldn't last that long. Take the fire, the body temperature. You'd soon get hypothermia and die. Take the water, your body's 60% water. Get out of space if you can, get off the earth. When you look at it all, you're not separate from any of those things. And all those things, elements, can be broken down into subatomic particles into pure energy. So when you investigate, you'll see all this body is a vibrating pattern of energy, suffused with the activity of knowing. That energy vibrates as the knowing or intelligence. And when I talk about intelligence, I'm not talking about your intellect. I'm talking about the same intelligence that's rolling the earth around the sun. It's causing the winter to come, the summer, the seasons to come, the day and the night. It's all these things to happen in this manifestation. The stars to form, planets, volcanoes to explode, implode. The whole manifestation is suffused with that intelligence energy. And it's that same intelligence energy that's beating your heart. It's growing your hair in your fingernails. It's digesting your food. Pointing out that that is all there is and you are that. But no, instead when somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am Bill or I am things. You relate, we continue to, because we've learnt it at school and our parents and everyone else reinforced it, and we believe in it ourselves. Instead of relating to I am the absolute, what can you add to the absolute? Nothing. What can you take away? We relate to this separate entity and live in this continual fear, anxiety, stress, guilt, shame, remorse, the psychological suffering. And as we go along and get more into the conceptual ideas and trying to find it gets worse. And it's hard to live with that after a while. And it doesn't have to be so. So we need to investigate it. Are you this thing called mind? Also, the same way. Is there such a thing as mind when you look into it? Can you show me a thing called mind? You're saying my mind. Well, who? That means it's not the car, or not the mind either. If it's my mind, who is this me or my that's claiming it? Is it that conceptual image you have about yourself, or is it the thought-up image you have about yourself that you believe you are? It's saying it's me, it's mine. Well, realise the me or the my that you're relating to is fictitious. So what you're relating to really is that pure life essence that you are, that intelligence energy, the activity of knowing. You are relating to that. But we take it to be the pattern, shape and form, and so we continue to suffer. So that's what, investigate that and see for yourself that without that concept. So instead of trying to become something, realise that being can never become anything, because being is happening right now. Becoming implies a future time. And when you investigate the concept of time, you'll see there's no such thing as time either. Ask yourself this, is there a past if I don't think about it? And you pause the thought, or stop, and you can't pause the thought, but try and get behind the thought without a thought. You realise you haven't stopped breathing, your heart hasn't stopped beating, the life is still there. But there's no conceptualising, no thought going on. And so that's what they call the great perfection, the thought-free, ever-fresh presence awareness, free of thought. And Wei Wei said years ago also, he says, why are you unhappy? He says, because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. And he says, there isn't one. And there isn't, that's true, there isn't a self. We take it on this personal self, but any of the text you read will talk about the one self. Atman is the one self. That's the godliness or the higher power, whatever you like to put it. But I don't use those terms, because you can get confused with them. Then you think there's talk about higher power or God or something, you think there's something else separate and apart from you. You've taken yourself or separated yourself conceptually from the absolute that you already are in the totality. And so you stay in the bondage of self. But it doesn't have to be that way. Have a look, investigate, and see for yourself. And when you see the self, you get the taste of it. You'll see, as Mankey told you, a Zen monk in the 16th century, says he called it the unborn Buddha mind. And he made the statement that everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn mind. And that's a fact. Nature is resolving everything and resolve itself, if it's allowed to. But we got these conceptual ideas and we put the brakes on and take ourselves to be this and that and this and that. And so get locked into the old conceptual way of thinking again. Where to go to where it's perfectly resolved. Just discard all of these concepts and beliefs we've taken on and see what happens then. We think we can't live without it. Well, you'll still utilise thought and feeling, but you recognise that at the background of that thought, in the basic space, is the pure awareness. You can't say you're unaware right now, so you must be aware, but can you tell me what that awareness is? You can't. Can't give it a description, because it's the very life that's expressing through you. Call it consciousness. Consciousness comes upon it, that awareness, but everything is that pure awareness, non-conceptual. And you are that. So the thing is to just look at, see all the beliefs, instead of trying to get something, which will never happen, because how can a pattern, shape and form, which we are, a vibrating pattern, get or become anything? We can't. But if you start and recognise what you are, the absolute, you are everything. But everything is that. And that's why the great mantra gets fulfilled. Everything is already that, and you are that. So you cannot become everything. You call yourself a human being. And you put the label on it that you call God a supreme being. So you put this label supreme being on yourself, or the label supreme and the label human. Take away the label supreme, take away the label human, try and separate the beingness without the label. Can you negate your beingness? Can you say, I am not? You can shout it as loud as long as you like, but you must realise that there's something and somebody there that's enabling you to say, I am, I'm being. So they're the things to look at. I've been rambling on a bit here, so it gives you all a go now. So that's what you need to look at, and so we open it up for questions, doubts or arguments or whatever. So that's just right. There you go. So if you've got any doubts or questions, don't hesitate to ask. Or whatever you've understood about it, and there are people in this room that haven't understood what I've been saying. And they can tell you, put it in a different way from what I'm putting it, where you might be able to hear, it might resonate with you, because if this resonates with you, you know there's something innately that's recognising it, and that's something that'll take you along the way if you open up to it. So go on.
Okay, so you can put your ears now if you want.
I'll have to, otherwise I won't hear anything.
And welcome everyone again. We have a couple of new faces today, so the format of the meeting is just as Bob presented. So we have about 40-45 minutes of the introductory spiel where he explains all the concepts, and now the forum is basically open for questions, sharing, doubts. And we also have between 20 and 30 people who are viewing with us online. And last meeting, British Julia says, keep rambling, Bob.
Yeah.
And last meeting we didn't actually resolve all of the questions and comments from people who are with us online. And I've promised them that we're going to start today from the last screenshots that I took from the last meeting. And there was one from Patricia from Argentina saying, thank you for those words of wisdoms and a meeting of sharing. And Tanya said, functioning will still happen as functioning is just happening on the basic screen. Same ing, see ing, hear ing, think ing, taste ing, touch ing, smell ing. It's all in the ing, the immediacy here now. Someone mentioned to me recently that basically they felt they were going to be overwhelmed and not be able to function because of the past experience. So that was from Tanya. And of course, I bet, Tanya, you actually laughed because they're obviously functioning. If they can share it with you, that's functioning. Even though the past experience is there, if they can speak, breathe. Now, Maureen, but this was a question, there was a question from someone. I probably have to start from this side. Yes, Vivek was saying, there is no choice, only choice is just to be with the one. And Amarnath says, we have free will, that to know we do not have free will. And it was all contextual to the meeting last week. And British Julia says, thank goodness that we have no free will. I dread to think what we'd do with it. That was contextual regarding the free will, which there is a very, very strong illusion of control and will. And when we look deeper into it, we can see that that illusion of control and will is being preconditioned by the environment from which nothing can be separated, neither the body nor the thinking. So calling it free will is a little bit of a... Did you want to ask a question? We can pass the mic. And then we come back to the last week sharing.
Thanks. Hello. I'm Ben, and I'm just curious about what you just said about the illusion of controlling and having will. Like, say with responsibilities or your goals, are you saying like you can like manifest it, so you don't have to control what you do? It just kind of like you just flow. Like, say if you don't want to do something, does that mean you don't do it in that moment, and you just like when you want to do it, you do it? Like, I'm just curious. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. It is the basic. The basic assumption of all non-duality is that there is no you to do or choose or act. If there is not wanting of doing, then action may spring from that energy. If there is wanting to doing, action may spring from that energy. But the idea of the imagined me, that there is someone there, a little dwarf there, who can do, choose, decide, nobody has ever found anyone there. That self that we imagine that we are has never been found. So the basic predicament of non-duality is that there is no such self. The neuroscience will tell you that we have default mode network which hallucinates self in time, that there was some imagined self that was young and got old and will get, but that is basically imagined. You can put a special helmet with high frequency or take special drugs, and that imagined self will evaporate. It doesn't exist apart from the imagination. So now, who is there to hold the responsibilities, make decisions or choices? If there is no separate self, only energy going through that preconditioned body-mind. Because if that body-mind was, let's say, severely traumatized, then it will be reacting in the way it has been conditioned. And it may have some sort of a paranoid responses, not really. But the idea that there is a self inside that is responsible for that is doing something right or something wrong, is baseless. We can't find any, and neither can science. It's just a social convention that we say I, you, to basically signify, yes, that they are seeming separate entities. But knowing the truth, that this is just life exhibiting its energy, the energy may be wanting or doing or behaving responsibly, that is all, you know, if you were brought up in a family which valued those behaviors, you probably by imitation were conditioned to value them as well. And the idea that there is a self that takes credit for those values is basically discarded as unnecessary. The life can be understood in much simple terms than by imagining a self which is guilty, right, wrong, incomplete, fearful, and causes all the incredible pain. That can all be skipped. Makes it easier.
Yeah, just like the earth rolling around the sun, the seasons coming and going, the tides coming in and out. Who's doing that?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same. That's what's breeding you. That same essence that's beating your heart. It's all the one essence, the one life, or the one, what I use the term intelligence energy. You can use the term God if you like, or whatever label you put on it. But I don't like using that term God because there are so many different ideas from all the different traditions and religions of what God is and how God is, you know. Get it mucked up. And then there's something that we take is higher than ourselves. But as I said, it's all absolute. Now, if you are the absolute, is there anybody superior to you? Anybody inferior to you? And what would you want from the other person?
Sorry?
What would you want from the other person if it's all absolute?
Yeah, you wouldn't need to kill and steal and rape and all that stuff that comes from the sense of deficiency, that I'm not complete and I have to add to myself.
Yeah.
If you realize that you are not inferior or superior to anyone and you are not separate, you may discover that there are no desires. Everything is as it is and there's no...
Okay.
Mm.
So with it being like becoming an adult and getting away from your parents. Well, so saying like insecurities about, say you want to go to the gym, you want to put on muscle, or you want to, you're saying to like, I don't know, or like move out, be independent. These are all maybe conditioned desires and like, or just day-to-day things you do. You can either live with your parents for your life, or you can move out. You can, like, what do you do? Like,
Good
what do
question.
we do, George?
Someone else.
Wait, Bob. Yes?
I said the functioning goes on naturally and spontaneously and effortlessly. Nature hasn't got any will, self-will. I want to do this, I want to do that.
Okay.
It's just all spontaneous, natural.
You don't have to stress about it.
No, that's the point. In some cases, you will find yourself moving out of the parents' house and getting independent. In other cases, I know a lot of people who stay with their parents all their lives, and that's how nature unfolds. The easiest thing, and it's really helpful because we are talking about the natural state, so the state which kind of is reflected everywhere in nature. What the planets do, what the hair cells do, what the animals do. Animals naturally, when they become an adults, they cut the connection with the parents and they move out and they live on their own. Some animals won't make it. They are too sick. They will get hunted by other animals. Nature doesn't mind. And this is the natural state. So as in nature, as the nature will move you to stay or go to gym or not go to gym, this is the natural state. So what we differ in, what is a cause of the psychological suffering is that on top of the natural movement of that energy that makes you do things, we have the narrative created that makes a drama. When you are, and most of this imagined self is preconditioned to feel humble, feel not good enough, unlovable, always suspect that what I'm doing is not the optimal thing. You know, I'm going to waste my life, I'm doing the wrong thing, I'm hurting people, or I don't deserve. And this causes a lot of turmoil, a lot of unhappiness. And then unhappy people go and make other people unhappy. If you are, like the sick dog which is barking and biting everyone, when the dog is happy and well, it basks in the sun and it wakes his tail when he's seeing anyone. And same with humans. Because of that narrative and because of that ingrained sense of guilt and incompleteness, we are unhappy and we make everyone else unhappy. So discarding the narrative and seeing, giving credit back to life. I was moved to do that. This is what is happening. This is what is coming true. And you can see how really you don't know what your next thought is going to be, what your next behavior is going to be. You see how it is the result of the dance of the whole universe with thousands of influences which you're not even aware of. Okay, I'll go back to the people from last week who were saying, Vivek, there is no choice. Only choice to just be with the one. And Amarnath, that we were here already with those. Amarnath says, conflict equals dis-ease. Thanks a million, Bob. Bob was alluding to that being in conflict, and it's always conceptual, causes the dis-ease. And now JB says, thank you, Bobcat and everyone, for the direct pointing. It seems so true that maybe someone can say the same thing in such a way that resonates and reinforces what is being pointed to even more clearly, which is amazing. Thanks to everyone who shared their presence. Much love to you all, guys. And this is particularly what Bob was saying about speaking up, because if there are things that you feel or that you understand, they may not be as clear spoken through Bob, but they may resonate when you reiterate it. So that is an invitation for everyone to contribute and speak. And now we have Amarnath, who says, someone is everyone, something is everything. Only investigation blasted, no investigator too. That's the mystery. Do not try to solve. And this is, oopsie, sorry. That we've been here. And Amarnath also says, past, present and future are in timeless presence. This is alluding to Bob was pointing already during the spiel. There is no past if you don't think about it. And you can only think about it right now. So all the past is in the thought right now. It is just habit of memory or thought or pattern. Source of time is timeless. Story and storyteller are absent. Still, we can enjoy the story and show empathy too, as one expressing as many. And we have Maureen answering to Mirella, who was saying that when you let everything be, where does attention rest? That was a good question from Mirella. Maureen is answering, hi Mirella, Bob has a beautiful term for this type of awareness. What occurs here is unconditional awareness. Bob, please remind us of the term you use for this. That was a request from Maureen for that unconditional awareness or uncontrived singularity.
Yeah, let it rest in its uncontrived singularity.
Or unborn Buddha mind, Bob was also saying. Non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness. Or basic screen, space-like awareness, or sky-like awareness. And yes?
We go into that space like again. Space is a basic screen in which everything appears. Space is no thing. Can you find a centre to space? You can't. Can you find a boundary to space? You can't. Does it have any inside to it or outside to it? So space is really no thing. People say it's nothing, but that's the wrong expression to put on it, because nothing means zero, zilch, emptiness. But space, everything is appearing in space. There's nothing you can postulate to be outside of space. Space is no thing, you're a thing, I'm a thing, the tree's a thing, the flower's a thing. So can something come from no thing? It can't. So we're all really no thing, appearing as things, seemingly so. That innate, suffused with that innate intelligence energy, or whatever you like to call it, godliness. It's all pattern, shapes and forms it's expressing through are all actually no thing. And that way, as Nisargadatta says, you're dreaming a dream you call the world. He says, stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your concern. Your concern is you love one part of the dream and not the other. He says, love all of it or none of it, and the rest will be done for you. And that's a fact. You know, you don't know what your next thought's going to be, but the thought will come up and you'll say, I think. As soon as you say, I think, you formed a subject. Me, I'm thinking. And the thoughts become the object. So thinking has been divided into subject-object. But can there be a thinker without thinking? Well, there can't be. And can there be the thought without thinking? So the thinking, the ing on it, gives it its reality. And that applies to seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, conceptualizing, whatever, experiencing. The ing is the actuality. No experiencer or experience, just the experiencing. But that's what we've done to it. We've put on the words or the concepts and believe it is me, the thinker, or the choice maker. Choices are made, but no choice maker. Thoughts are coming up, but no thinker. Feelings are felt, but there's only the feeling, there's no feeler or felt. That's what needs to be recognised and understood.
Yeah, we caught up on the meeting from last week, but we have already a few people contributing from those who are with us online, saying good morning. And then Henya says, hello to all. So happy to be able to be here live with you today. This body-mind personality has experienced much anxiety throughout its lifetime. I always finding comfort in the pointing and relief in the knowing that there is no doer. Many moments of peace today when that remembering occurred. Thank you, Bob and Kat and all. Much love. Thank you, Henya. And Julia is answering to, I think there is a question. Yes. Julia answering to Mirella. Mirella says, when I look and can't find a separate entity, but when there is no looking, separation feels real. Why is that? And Julia says, Mirella, there are probably lots of times when separation doesn't feel real, like when you are in a deep sleep or when you are in a flow and giving a lot of attention to the thoughts. Once the thoughts become the star of the show and are believed into, the idea of separation seems real. The belief of sincere looking, the benefit of sincere looking as you see it never was real. You want to comment on that, Bob? The separation, it feels real, but you know the truth about it?
Yeah. The thoughts seemingly divide because the thoughts are in the opposites. Good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. That's the way the thinking functions. A vibration. Hitting the concept or the words, that's the end of it, it bounces back. Mm-hmm. But what was the question?
The separation. Why does it feel real? When she investigates, she can't find separate self, but when she doesn't, it still feels as if there is...
Well, say the words functioning in the opposites, and we take them to be real and believe in the separation of the word, but not realising it's a vibration. When it hits the end, it's going to come back, just like day and night, the sun rolling around, the earth rolling around the sun. You know, when it's facing the sun, it's light. That part that's facing the sun is light, and when it's rolled around the other way and it's moved away from the light, it's dark. Now the sun doesn't know anything about darkness or light, and the earth doesn't know anything about darkness or light. The same. Two ends of the one stick. When we see it's all the one, you're not going to dive into one end and ignore the other, which we've been continually doing, getting locked in the trap of division, dividing the indivisible and separating the inseparable. But everything is that.
And also when you look out in nature and you see the ocean and you see the waves on the ocean, they seem like there is one wave here and another wave there and yet another one there. It seems like this body is here and this body is there, and when I speak the sentence, the words are separate, and when I look around, the objects are separate, and it will always appear this way. Otherwise there's no dream. If there is no separation, if there is no background, form and emptiness, black and white, there is nothing. Just look into it. The body feels separate, it looks separate, but you're not the body. You are the space of seeing. As the space of seeing, try to separate anything that appears in the space of seeing from that space. You can't do it. If you are the consciousness, all the bodies are within you.
That about the waves, that's a very good analogy. What are the waves? Whether they seem separate, but they're still only water.
Yeah. And they will seem separate because we have this brilliant costume with the holes in it, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth. And through that, it is calibrated the way to understand the light waves as different colors and the sounds as... It actually, the way perception works, it sees the multitude. But you are not your perception, and you are not the perceived, and you are not the perceived air. You are the space of seeing, space of knowing, space of being. And within that awareness that you are, everything appears. And yes, this body feels more personal than that one, and maybe even more personal than those ones. But that's the feeling. When we know the truth, they equally appear in the space like awareness. They always are inseparable from the space of the awareness that I am. And we have also Amarnath answering the same question. He says, looker or watcher is not in focus. Just looking is going on, no seen or seer. You are as it is. By looking, you gain nothing. By not looking, nothing is lost. And Tanya says, good morning. And Vivek says, love you. And Vivek says, surrender to one awareness while there is no I. And we get hearts from Dan and from Rosa. And that is it. So now we caught up on all the participants from all over the world. So please, if you have anything to share, anything that does resonate or that you do understand and which you think might help someone else who is in this room or outside this room, go on, Ross.
Just a couple of things that have been questioned already, that whatever decisions we make, whatever we do, whatever we plan, whatever happens, when you realise that's all tied together with a name, and when it's realised that everything that's ever happened to the so-called individual, the me, when that just drops away, for a moment, on one hand, it's seen that all the decisions and everything that happened is okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't amount to anything. And at the same time, there's a great freedom in that. And you notice that what is true is all this, is everything. Nothing changes except the identity of a separate person just dissolves. And it all seems to hang together with the name. And the name, I've always been sort of intrigued with the concept that Bob mentioned, the simple concept of body-mind, mind and body. So this name, in getting back to the ancient Sanskrit, is Nama. And there's Nama and Rupa. And I've always thought that, well, that's too simple. Just name and form. It's too simple. For instance, in Buddhism, Nama means includes form, includes feeling, consciousness, sensation, and perception. This is all Nama. So how can it be just simply reduced to name and form? Well, it just dawned on me. It dawned on me in a dream last night. I couldn't sleep, and so the mind wandered back 30 years ago, something like that. And this person appeared in the dream, and I thought, what was it about this person? What was her name? I can't remember her name. I don't remember her name. And that was the end of the story. I couldn't remember anything else. Until later, little bits of the jigsaw came together, and there was a person and a relationship to another person, and parts played, and everything sort of filled into this picture. But without the name, nothing was known. Mm. End of story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've always got something to say. Welcome back, Dave.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, it's really lovely to see you.
And you too, again.
I love you so much. Thank you. When you were saying, Kat, about looking out of the holes, I thought of a story when I was a child. When I was born on Halloween on the 31st of the 31st of October, and my mother. We were celebrating Halloween in our little cul-de-sac because there were some American kids across the way, and they celebrated Halloween, and all the community got together and decided to do it. At that time, it wasn't a very done thing in Australia. But on this particular Halloween, all the kids were running around the street eating sweets and being really happy, and just lost in the wonderful experience. And my mother secretly dressed up as a witch, and it was really, really convincing. She had all this dark makeup on and this black outfit and this gnarled cane, and she, as we came up to the house, she hid in the shadows near the front door, and then she came out and went like this, And for a moment I thought I was absolutely shocked, you know. I really believed that this was a witch coming out of the darkness. And then I saw it was my mother, but I couldn't believe it was my mother for so long, and I was in this sort of quandary, wondering whether it was my mother or evil incarnate, or maybe my mother is evil incarnate. All these sort of thoughts and things came into mind, but at the end of the day, the absolute faith or the knowledge that she really was my mother was still really firm there. And after a while, all the other images of the witch and the meaning of the witch and the reality of the witch and all faded away. And then I found myself back at home in the loving arms of my mother. I think this is just a beautiful analogy of waking up, isn't it? Yeah, we dream for a moment that we're out of home and we're lost and fucked and far from home, or whatever you want to say. But in reality, we just relax and simply wake up back into the perfection.
Beautiful, beautiful little story. I have a comment from Michael. Good morning, Bob and Kat and all. Separation only seems real because we put the power of belief into it. Belief, the word has lie. Play with the word, you have to be life. The word also has the answer. Not sure if that was Bob or someone else, but really helped me. Yeah, play with the word. Lie or life. Beautiful, Michael. And Dale says, everywhere I am here. And Mirala says, thank you, Kat and Bob, for the clarity of your pointers, and much gratitude for your Sailor Bob collection. What a gem. Your pointers resonate deeply here. Much love to both of you. Thank you, Mirella. That's beautiful. I actually noticed that there was one more comment from the morning that my phone didn't actually read. So it was from Julia, who says, they are no doers, and Bob never seems bothered by it. That said, the mind that I am not objects to people showing up late and interrupting the spiel for a hug. Sorry to whinge, but maybe not. Just saying. I don't know how you stay focused, Bob. Not that you are doing the focusing or anything. Yeah, thank you for sharing. We do prefer if people come on time, if you can. We used to have the meeting at half an hour earlier, but there was a couple of people who requested later because they had a long way to travel. So we've changed it for them. They've never shown up again, which is usually the case. But we've given everyone else who used to come late that extra half an hour. But then, the internal clocks got reset. And if you can, that will be nice, because there is not just us, there are other people also. And Bob is brilliant in staying focused and not being interrupted by those hugs. But let's not take it for granted. He's going to be 94 soon. So let's cherish that clarity of focus.
All hugs in.
Yeah, and all the hugs before 10:30 or after 12. And now Amarnath says also, looker or watcher is not in focus, just looking on no scene or seer. You are as it is. By looking, you gain nothing. Oh, I think I actually been there. Sorry. And yeah, that's it. So again, we just pass on the mic. Anyone who would like to ask question, please.
Okay. So I just want to have two things. So one, when you spoke about the presence before, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes ago, I was realizing that I was actually the whole time listening with thoughts in my mind and applying the thought, like what I was thinking, the thoughts, what you were saying, applying to my thoughts.
Yes.
So to actually understand what's happening, because that was one of the reasons why I came here. And then in this moment when you spoke about the presence, everything was changing in the room, and I felt like I could have drugs or something, because basically I wasn't thinking anymore. I was just looking, and I thought, wow, that's actually interesting. And then I noticed, oh, maybe now I'm present.
Beautiful.
And that was pretty amazing, actually, to feel it. And then the topic of separation came up a couple of times, and then I was just trying to understand, like the separation came up, and I'm trying to understand what is the feeling I had, why I came here, because I met someone, this year basically, and there's a lot of story around it. I'm not sure if that's complex to explain, but at some point in time, which was last week or so, I felt like I don't know whether I was separating, but I felt like I told her something that, or trying to reflect on the situation. However, I was basically understood the situation more and saw that there's no point going further in this relationship. And then I sort of, once I said what I was thinking or what I've been reflecting, once I went to the playground with my son, I had a feeling of freeness and happiness. And it's the first time I felt that in that way, and I was actually smiling the whole time, didn't realize, and then I noticed someone else picked up on that energy, I would say. And then I met up with that same person in the evening, and then after that I didn't feel that anymore, so it was just a sense of that feeling. And then I noticed something, I think that separation came up. I noticed the part of separation that I have that, I don't know, I can't describe that emotion or feeling, what I did have, but it's still there, and it sort of feels like I'm missing something. But then every time I spoke to my mother, which I said that's why I'm here, because she's spiritual, and she's actually in Germany, but she knows about Bob because of her spiritual meetings she's going, and she said maybe that came up, I should come here. If I want to, of course. Which I decided yesterday I will. And then so I don't know, I wasn't, I'm confused at, and I'm not sure if I need to understand or not. So anyway, it's just
but that's a beautiful thing what you say regarding the listening. That's really good insight when you realize that when you listen with your mind active, and every word you kind of try to fit in with what you already know and compare with your prior understanding. That's not really listening. That's just kind of looking for the confirmation bias. But then when you open up and you sit there, and you may not even process all of the thinking that is going on, but you suddenly feel so much more present, so much more alive. That was a beautiful insight. Yeah. And when you talk about the story of separation that comes through the relationship, relationship is also a form, like, everything in the whole dream is a form of a dance, the engagement, everything is connected with everything. So even if you separate and you never see that person ever again, she still exists as a thought in your mind whenever you think of her. Yeah. But at the same time, you could look at your story in a way how life moved you to do something. You haven't done it. You had a thought, or you had the feeling, the strong feeling to perhaps discuss the relationship doesn't take you anywhere. The feeling has been strong enough, so it has been followed. And the result of following that feeling was that you were elated, you were joyful, and you were free. That is like a simple example of how the life operates, how everything happens in life without necessarily having you to be a control person, someone who does something right or wrong, decides or undecides. See, the feeling comes through, and it makes you do things. And thinking now whether it was right or wrong is already the narrative. And you can never know it, because you only have one version of life that goes the way which, you don't know what would have happened if you did something else. That is just all imagination. But it's a brilliant analogy and example of how the life functions, how it operates.
Yeah, it's a between mixture of logic.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like it's a mixture of logic and feeling, because I was reflecting with my mother for about 6 hours from, 11 at the night to 5 o'clock in the morning, and I haven't slept that whole night. And then I had heart racing, and I felt like I was breathing very strong as I was running for 2 hours, and it was just happening. I never had that before either. And there was a very strong feeling of jealousy. And after that, next day I spoke to her, and I was very clear with what I was saying. However, after that feeling of missing something came up, and that was, what I was saying to her was very logical and very clear, because I understood the pattern she's doing, and I know that with this sort of pattern it wouldn't be going logically. And I was feeling that was right, like I feel like there was from my feeling. However, but also logically, I'm not sure of reflection, I say, yeah. And then after the feeling of missing came up, but I think when I spoke with my mother again, reflecting, what I was missing was the past, but that might not happen presently because of the patterns, and what's the reason why I actually wanted to separate. That didn't change on her side, so therefore, even though, but I still hang on to that. Yeah, that's a good point. I understand. I was hanging on to the feeling of what I was missing, which probably might not be there anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. I think with non-duality, what it is really is a kind of coming up, and we're knocking on the door continuously and asking a question, who am I, right? Am I this flow of thoughts, for example? Am I this body? Can I be described by thought? We're asking very fundamental questions about our direct experience. We're not, and all of this stuff that's coming up for you, I would say, is brilliant. The only thing I would add to that would be just simply maybe just let it be as it is. Just let it come up. Watch it in awareness. Ask yourself the question, perhaps. Okay. Am I aware? Right? Are you aware now?
Of the feelings?
No. Just simply, are you aware? Are you aware of, without regard to what you might be aware of? Yeah? You are aware, aren't you?
You're conscious.
You're here now. You are you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're just simply aware, no matter what is going on. Well, that sort of direct questioning is what I mean by coming and knocking on the door. And because anything can come up and anything can flow away. But if you were that flow of thoughts, right? If you were actually, your identity could be found in that flow of thoughts, then as they disappeared, you would be diminished, wouldn't you? In some way. So, doesn't that tell us something? It tells us that we cannot be the objects of our awareness.
It's a thought, of course.
Yeah, it's just thoughts arising, isn't it? And thoughts and emotions and not being able to sleep and all these sorts of things that come up. They're fantastic. But, let's just keep knocking on the door and asking those direct questions about who I am in truth, rather than going down in the flow and trying to work out all these connections and things like that.
Yeah, because it's a thought that creates the emotion.
Yeah.
But then if you don't think it doesn't do it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So Yeah, thank you very much for asking that, sharing all of that.
I have a couple of comments from people online. I just like to add, when you're investigating, also see the tendency mind always have to answer the question why. That's a trap, because why is an invitation to create a story. So just enjoy when that why question comes. Oh, why am I missing the past? And the story comes. Why did I do this? And the story comes. And there's nothing wrong. We love the stories. They're all absolutely wonderful. They're beautiful films, dramas, art. They're great. But when you are free and you watch the movie because you want to, that's a different story when the presence is completely hijacked by the content of the mind, and you basically in a daydream. You basically, there is no presence of no awareness of the present happening. So with the why story, like why would I feel this, or why am I still feeling there is something missing? You look out in nature. Those body-mind mechanisms are conditioned to always provide for themselves, find safety, and as much as possible find the unconscious competence, which is basically autopilot. So when you drive the car, initially it takes a lot of time to learn to make it automatic, and later on you drive on autopilot. You don't think, or when you type on the computer or on the phone, you don't think which finger to use, which muscles, which synapses to fire to get that. So when you are with somebody in the relationship, and the same applies to animals who don't imagine self. When maybe you've seen the beautiful movies on Netflix about the dogs that lost the owners and they dying on the grave, or they waiting in the railway station. Or maybe you have seen the animals, the two cats that were together for all their lives and one is gone. The sense in the behavior, what we anthropomorphize and call they are missing or longing, that sense is present in the behavior, because the whole mechanism has the automatic functioning and automatic autopilot behavior around that other person being in your life, or that pet being in your life. So adjustments, we call it grieving, but there is an adjustments which may be tiring, because you have to come up with all new sets of utilizing the energy, because that everything is new. It needs adjusting. So that's natural. Everything that is happening is always, as in nature, it's always natural. What is unnecessary is the narrative that comes about and says, oh yeah, you didn't say it. That's just an example, because there are plenty of people with us. But there are people who say, oh, I'm feeling jealousy. Oh, I must be that I'm not grasping it. I'm not it. Oh, I'm not getting it. Or I'm feeling longing or grieving, so I'm not it. I should be present. I should. See, they are all stories. I should be feeling something else that I'm feeling. Because if I'm feeling what I'm feeling, it proves or means that I'm not that. That's nonsense. That's just unnecessary suffering. So when you see this, the mind coming, and again, you didn't say it, it's just to generalize the point. When the mind comes and offer, and there's no mind, it's just a habitual why question popping in, inviting us for the ride, you may find yourself on the ride, but if there can be awareness of the mind going for the ride, there will be a freedom and there will be enjoyment, even if the ride is kind of a horror movie. And that's the invitation of questioning through non-duality, because then you are free. Even if there is grieving, longing, anger, all of it, you're free. Even if there is raining or night or winter, even if there is displeasure, there is a freedom in it. And there we have another comment from Tanya. She says, have noticed resistance this week. Don't want to spiritually bypass this. You want to comment on that concept? Spiritual bypass is a very popular concept amongst people who really want to make money on spirituality. And there is nothing wrong. They're also that same life essence. They have family to feed. If they find idiots who want to pay for it, why not? And when I say idiots, I don't mean to disrespect anyone, because there is no one there. There's also life expressing. So it's nothing wrong. It's just that that cute concept of spiritual bypass. That there is something that I have to do, because there is me, the doer, who has to do something. I can't skip anything. I can't bypass anything. Because what? Because there is no me? Anyway, thank you, Tanya. I gather it's a joke, because I know you have the understanding. There is a resistance to some thoughts and resistance to some of the things that seem to happen that aren't liked to be honest. That's wonderful. How healthy is that? If you resist cold weather, you put the jumper. That's wonderful. If you didn't, you freeze. Yes, Tanya, everyone resists what they don't like. Every animal. Give the animal a kick, they will resist it. That's normal. Seems this pattern is coming up again. Wonderful. Let it be there forever, because resistance to what is unpleasant or dangerous, it keeps you alive. It's just that it's just as you say, Tanya, there is a resistance, pattern of resistance coming up. There is no one there who resists it. It's a pattern. Seems this pattern is coming up again. I have strong feeling this is illusion and it is just thought, but strong energies have been appearing. Any pointers? Wonderful, just savor the strong energies. Amarnath is answering to that. Amarnath says, background of ease, conceptual labeling of resistance going on. You yourself told that you are separate from resistance, able to watch. Do not hold on plug of the holder. Resistance do not have time to stay with us. We ourselves has full interest and belief to hold. And Tanya says, in other words, there is no resistance, just labeling, thought, narrating. Notice this so-called resistance comes up when I'm tired mainly. Indeed, I am watching the resistance. I am not the holder. Thank you, Amarnath. Beautiful, Tanya. That's a really nice realization. You can see how the body runs out of fuel when it's tired. It gets irritable. That's in everybody. That's a good thing to know. That's a good observation. You want to comment on that, darling? No? Anyone? Peter, would you like to add something to it?
Yeah, I think it's very practical and very absolutely amazing. I remember Sai Baba. I went to see Sai Baba once, and he was asked this very question about how to deal with conflict in the world. It was a very important question, and his answer was, people tend to be in conflict when they're tired. I thought that was a very simple answer to a potentially huge conflict involved question.
Yeah. I think I have another comment here from Byron. Somehow I have the feeling that the more we explain and the more we talk, the less we say. Yeah, cool. Yes, Bob always says, say it.
The more you talk and think about it, the further away from you wander from the truth. Yeah. Stop talking and thinking, and there's nothing you will not be able to know.
Yeah, and the way is beyond language. Yes, we are pointing. Don't look at the finger, look at the moon. The talking, the thinking, the explaining, the sharing is just for the love of it. It's just for the love of that one essence that we are constantly pointing to. We can't paint it. I mean, there are people who make a music and paintings of it, and there is nothing that is not it. But yes, we just delight in describing the obvious. But that's a good one. Byron also says, explaining seems to imply that I know, I, me. It also implies that somehow I am afraid to not know, to be nothing. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I don't know if that's I don't really know if explaining means that there is someone, the I, that knows something. Perhaps explaining is just happening, just like singing's happening, and it doesn't have to imply that there is someone who is a singer that is doing the singing. Seeing is happening, it doesn't have to imply that there is someone who's doing the seeing. But maybe it does for you, as every expression is valid.
It implies nothing, but the one that's asking the question and wanting to know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if it implies for him, that's all right. And it's good to be in a place of not knowing. And then from that place of not knowing, you don't know what's your next thought going to be. And you may find that the next thought is a thought of how to make a cup of tea. And there is a knowing of how to make it.
That's what it is. And Nisargadatta says, not knowing is best.
Yeah. And from that space of not knowing, without asserting anything, who knows? Yeah, the cup of tea may happen, or explaining how to make a cup of tea may happen, or may not happen. Who knows? And Dan says, oh no, he was just responding, good morning to Tanya. And that's it. Oh, Caroline. She says, we'll be back soon, been away, life's happening. Oh, wonderful. I hope you had the time of your life. I'll be glad to see you when you're back. Yes, Dave?
Just on not knowing, a little antidote here, which is based, I believe, on fact, about Socrates. And some of his followers came up to him one day and said, "You are the wisest man in Athens." And he sort of looked at them and said, "Oh, I don't know about that." And after a period of time, these people came back and he was in their presence and he said, "Yes, as a matter of fact, I do believe I am the wisest man in Athens, and that is because I know that I know nothing."
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Peter wanted to say.
One of Bob's nicest pointers that I've seen on the website or somewhere like that is that we have this sense of presence, right? It's a very direct and undeniable, self-evident truth, isn't it? We're present. There is this presence, right? Does anyone disagree with that? It's just anyway. But after this sense of presence, your point of Bob was after this sense of presence it's all ideas. It's just all more a complication. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, and we are
It's probably time, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And we started getting thank you messages, so that is, would you like a final statement for the day before we go?
Been enough said.
Yeah, enough said. Now just realize that you already are that. You are not being, you are not unconscious. So that's it. That will be it for today. And thank you everyone for coming. And
Thank you.
thank you everyone who is with us online. And you're that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.